Thanks for tuning in to this week's installment of Ask a Yoga Question, where I answer reader yoga questions on my blog. Question 1. I've been practicing yoga for 3 years. I don't practice every day, just 2 times a week, but I do exercise every day. My goal is scorpion pose, but it looks much easier than it actually is. So instead of scorpion, I'm now practicing forearm stand. At the beginning, I could neither get my legs up nor hold the posture for a few seconds. I'm working on it and have already strengthened my shoulders, back, and abdominals to get my butt and legs up. But now I don't know how to hold the stability. Which muscles should I engage the most? How far away should my forearms be? Is it correct to keep practicing against the wall until I get more confidence? Should I arch my torso? I sometimes feel the tension between my shoulder blades. Is that okay? I would really appreciate your tutorial on how to get into this pose and how to improve it. So after a couple of attempts filming this demo, I realized that I have a hard time talking while demoing this posture. It's not my strongest posture yet, so I'm just going to talk to you first about it, then I'll demo it, and then I'll talk a little bit more. To answer a couple of your questions about arching the back, you can start to arch when you feel that you're ready to come into scorpion pose, or if you're just trying to find your balance. Arching is a nice way to find your balance. I like to keep my legs in a V sometimes when I'm doing that, because I find that it's kind of like a seesaw, so you have a little bit more of a sense of stability and balance there. For the forearms, you want to make sure that your arms are the correct distance apart. And in order to do that, you can bring your hands down flat, which is the traditional Ashtanga method, or you can bring your hands in prayer position, which is what I like, because for some reason for me the Ashtanga method doesn't feel quite right in my shoulders. So whatever way you want to do it, that's fine. The most important thing is to make sure that you're grabbing the outside edges of the arms, because this will set you up for the proper foundation for your elbows. Make sure you're grabbing the outside edges of your arms. A lot of people grab the very end of their forearms or about their elbows, and that's still too far away for your arms. So make sure you're grabbing the outside edges. From here, I'll just demo it and then I'll talk you through it again. Okay, so to get into it, I begin on my forearms, and then I kind of you notice I rock side to side a little bit. Sometimes I find that if I don't do that, my elbows or my arms I just don't feel stable enough. So I try to when we're sitting down for forward fold, before we do that, we take the flesh out from underneath the sits bones and then we reach forward, just so we have a more firm connection to the earth. That's what I do with my elbows when I'm rocking side to side. I kind of remove the flesh from underneath so that I have a very strong and stable connection to the mat. From there, I curl the toes, lift the hips, and then I walk forward as far as I can. It requires an extreme amount of flexibility to be able to get your hips over your shoulders before you lift up. I don't think that I do it, so I lift one leg and then I have to do a tiny bit of a hop. And I really try not to make it a kick, because if you're kicking with too much momentum, you're obviously going to flip over. And so instead I try to visualize in my head that the little hop comes from this planted foot, and that hop helps me to lift up, not to lift over. So if you think about that, if you're a visual person, think about that. From there, I keep my legs like a V, like a V, and then that way I can find my balance and stability.
The muscles that you want to engage in order to find the stability are your upper body muscles. So your shoulders, your forearms are pushing the ground away, your shoulders are engaged, you're really pressing into the hands as well, just lifting, 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 and having that visualization of just being really lifted, like a long line of energy from the ground all the way up through your toes. You also want to use your core strength, obviously, but then it's a matter of balance to find the stability. And I would recommend taking the legs apart like a seesaw, like a letter V, so that you can find that balance and stability. When you feel stable there and you're ready to go into scorpion pose, then you can take one leg bent and bring the foot towards your head for scorpion. In order to really come into that shape of a scorpion, you need to lift your head and then round your upper back. So you'll shift your gaze from the ground all the way like out in front of you, so that you can, when you shift the gaze, you'll notice that your upper back will round as well. And then you'll get that good full body back bend that we're looking for. And then when you're ready to release, just try to come out with as much control as you can. You really don't want to be whipping the spine around too much. So the more control you can use to come out of the pose, the better. And then when you're done, go right into child's pose and rest there, because it's a really good counter stretch for the spine. And if you come up too fast, you might get dizzy, and I don't want you to pass out or anything. So I hope that's helpful. I'll demo it one more time, and yeah, let me know if that works for you.
Question 2. Hi Candace, I cannot sit comfortably in a squat with both feet planted on the floor. I can't seem to bend my ankles much more than 90 degrees. My hips aren't tight, by the way. I do lots of hip openers. Could you please recommend exercises or poses to increase ankle flexibility? Or is this an anatomical problem? Thanks.
For Malasana pose, you want to take your feet 45 degrees, sit down low, and then press into the knees with your elbows. Lift out of the low back, lift the heart. You want to have your shoulder blades drawn toward one another. If you're very tight in the ankles, you'll come up and do this on the toes. But to increase ankle flexibility, there are a couple things you can do. One thing I really like is to wake the feet up. So to do that, take your fingers, interlace them between your toes, lift your leg, and just begin to roll through your foot like this. And then switch directions. Remember that whatever you do on one side, you want to do on the other. And if you think about the way that we treat our feet, we're always like stuffing them in shoes, the toes don't get to spread as much, and we have a lot of little muscles in the feet that we just don't use because they're always stuffed into shoes. So wake the feet up like that. Then begin to incorporate your toes into your practice. So every time you're on hands and knees and you're doing, say, cat-cow pose, curl your toes, press the toes into the mat, and then do your pose. Same thing for anytime you're in low lunge. Instead of being like that, come onto the toes and do your whole practice focusing on your toes and seeing where you can incorporate them more into your practice. You can also do poses like eagle pose. So you're gonna cross your leg, cross your arms, and then see if you can wrap your foot around and squeeze everything. Try not to arch the back, set the weight back into the heel, sit low, squeeze as much as you can, bring the elbows and the knees in one line, and then unravel, and of course do it on the other side. Another pose you can do is frog pose. So this can be kind of tough on the knees. It's great to have a blanket open up the legs like this, then flex your feet, and then come down. This is mostly a hip opener, but it's good for the ankles as well. Another thing you can do is sit, instead of sitting on your shins like this, you can sit with the toes curled. And just breathe here. Begin every yoga practice like this. Start your centering like this for maybe 30 seconds, a minute. End the same way. Another thing you can do is just bring your feet hip distance, come up onto the toes and just sit. And then just work your way down and stop wherever you need to and then lift up. And just kind of play around with that until you can come all the way down, maybe lift up. Remember that in addition to the ankle flexibility, it may also be tight calves. And so one thing you can do is come against a wall, place the toes, step as close as you can, place the toes against the wall, and then just lean into it, and you'll feel a nice stretch in your calf. I hope that's helpful.
Question 3. So I'm working on the 31-day strength project, and my chosen strength pose is a supported headstand. It is coming along nicely, but now I want to fine-tune my core strength and posture. When I'm going into the supported headstand, I walk my feet until my hips are above my shoulders, but I notice that my upper back is pretty rounded and my lower back as well. Basically, I can't get my hips and butt to straighten until I lift my feet up. I've been videotaping myself and I've seen this progress. I'm wondering, how do I get my upper back and my lower back to straighten? Am I tight in my lower back or my hips maybe? I'm also pretty weak in the core, so I think that probably has something to do with it. Thanks.
Whenever I can't figure out what's going on with my body in a particular pose, I try to visualize that pose or try to do that pose in a different perspective. That sounds like it doesn't make any sense, but I promise it does. So for the setup for headstand, we're in this position and we walk up, right? So we need to make the same shape, but let's try it sitting down. So my hands are over my head. This is like the floor. And then we're walking the feet up. So what is the difference between, you're saying that your back is rounding. So the difference between this and this is core strength and pressing into the ground with the forearms to activate the shoulders. So make sure that you're doing that as you're lifting up. Grabbing opposite arms, interlacing the fingers. The head comes down. Now already, before you start to set up, press into the ground. You'll notice that when I do that, watch my shoulders. I'm not pressing. Now I'm pressing. So keep that pressing sensation. Curl your toes and lift up. Then walk. And then come up when you're ready. Either pike up or lift one leg. And then remember to always go into child's pose. So in order to come up without that rounding back, really make sure that you're pressing into your forearms to activate your shoulder, and make sure that you're using your core strength to walk the feet forward and lift the legs up. And if you have trouble, just practice doing it like this, because this is essentially the same position, except you're also strengthening your hip flexors to hold up your legs. I hope that's helpful. Whoa. Ah!
Which muscle?
Okay. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, comment, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you have a question, leave it below in the comment section or ask it over on the yoga forum at forum.yogabycandice.com.